boys and girls. It's the reading teacher. Do you know last night I was reading a novel and I came to a word that I did not know. I had, in fact, never heard of before. And I have been to high school and I have been to college and I have even been to graduate school, and there was a word that I didn't know. And I'll tell you a secret. It happens a lot. There's always a word that I'm not sure what it means. So, did I just skip over it and pretend like it never happened? No, I used the context clues to help me figure out what that word meant. That means I used the sentence that the word was in to help me figure it out. We're going to do the same thing today. I'm going to give you a word and I'm going to put it in a sentence, and I'd like to see if you can figure out this word. The book we're going to read today will be very inspirational. Any idea what inspirational means? No, because we haven't read the book, so you wouldn't have an idea. Even though it's in its context clue, or it's in the context, it's in the sentence, you still haven't read the story and don't know what the story is about. But let me show you the front cover. You might have read this before. Rosie Revere Engineer. So at the end of the story, we're going to come back and I'm going to ask you about that word, inspirational. I'll tell you the sentence again. The story we're going to read today will be very inspirational to you. All right, see if you can use that context clue to help you figure out what that word inspirational is, and we'll get back to it when we're done with the story. Rosie Revere Engineer is written by Andrea Beaty, illustrated by David Roberts. This book, you're going to notice, is written in rhyme. It's going to all rhyme. It's like a gigantic poem. This is the story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Lila Greer's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. All right, now can you figure out which one Rosie is? The clues that it gives us are she was very shy. She didn't want to speak. So which one do you think is Rosie? That's right. She's right here. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer's stash. And late one night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. All right. It says she's adding treasures to her engineer's stash. An engineer is somebody who likes to think about the way things work and build things, create things, take things apart and rebuild them. And really uses math, uses just lots of thinking about the way things go together. Problem solving. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen. Can you think about why would Rosie hide what she's made? Why do you think she is hiding them? Great thinking. I was probably thinking the same thing that you were, that she might be embarrassed or she doesn't want anyone to see what she's working on. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye and made fine inventions for uncles and aunts, a hot dog dispenser and helium pants. Helium makes things float. She looks like she made helium pants for her uncle. And look at her face. She's got a big smile on it. The uncle she loved most was Zookeeper Fred. She made him a hat to keep snakes off his head from parts of a fan and some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps the pythons away. Again, look at that smile. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud. But Fred slapped his knee and he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. She looked at the cheese hat and then looked away. "I love it," Fred hooted. "Oh, I truly do." But Rosie Revere knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf, and after that day kept her dreams to herself. And look at her face right now is not smiling. In fact, the text says that when her uncle started laughing, she stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. Now, boys and girls, you might not know what dismayed and perplexed mean. You probably know what embarrassed means. But because these words are with embarrassed, and you can tell how she's feeling, you know that those words aren't good. They're not good feeling words. If you're perplexed and dismayed, it's the opposite of feeling excited and happy and proud, isn't it? And that's how it went until one autumn day, her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great-great-aunt Rose was a true dynamo who'd worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of the things she had done and goals she had checked off her list one by one. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky. "The only thrill left on my list is to fly, but time never lingers as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dreams." So her great-great-aunt has come to stay, and her great-great-aunt says, "The only thing I never ever did was fly." And this is her when she was younger. And look, I see a little smile begin to form in Rosie Revere. I think she might be forming a plan. What do you think? That night, as Rosie lay wide-eyed in bed, a daring idea crept into her head. Could she build a gizmo to help her aunt fly? She looked at the cheese hat and said, "No, not I." But questions are tricky, and some hold on tight. And this one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. So she's laying in bed thinking, and she thinks, can I do it? Can I help her fly? And then she remembers that cheese hat she made for her uncle. And she thinks, no, I can't do it. But the thought still sticks with her, doesn't it? And she begins to think about it again and think about it again until the morning she says, you know what? I'm going to do it. She worked and she worked till the day was half gone, then hauled her cheese copter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test, just to see the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be. Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch. The Helio cheese copter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled round and round, then froze for a heartbeat and crashed to the ground. It didn't work. The end. Do you think that's really the end of the story? No, we haven't solved the problem yet. Think about Rosie Revere. She worked so hard. She's not going to give up this time. Then Rosie heard laughter and turned round to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who thought, oh, no, never, not ever again will I try to build something to sputter or spin or build with a lever, a switch, or a gear, and I never will be a great engineer. She turned round to leave, but then great-great-aunt Rose grabbed hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. You did it! Hooray! It's the perfect first try! This great flop is over. It's time for the next. Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. I failed, said dear Rosie. It's just made of trash. Didn't you see it? The cheesecopter crashed. Yes, said her great aunt. It crashed. That is true. But first, it did just what you needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew. Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and on to the next. She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. That's right. They worked till the sun sneaked away to its bed. Aunt Rosie tied her headscarf around Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with a smile, ear to ear, to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 build gizmos and gadgets and do hickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as proudly as Rosie Revere. And how does this picture compare to the first picture we saw of Rosie? Right, she was not smiling in that first picture, but now she is. All right, I asked you at the beginning of the story to think about the sentence and the word inspirational. And I said this book will be an inspirational book for us. This book will be an inspiration to you. Can you figure out what that word inspiration means now that we've heard the story? Yes, inspiration is something that really makes you want to become better or try again. And thinking about Rosie Revere Engineer and thinking about her failure at first, she could have just given up. She could have quit, but she didn't. She decided to push and see what would happen if she tried again and tried again and tried again. And that's called perseverance, when you don't give up. So to me, Rosie Revere is an inspiration. I would like to have as much perseverance as Rosie Revere Engineer. I hope you enjoyed that story as much as I did. I really like the way that Andrea Beaty put in such a great message for us. All right, friends, go enjoy this beautiful day and come back again soon for a story. If you like this channel, would you press like and share it with your friends? You could even subscribe if you haven't already. That would be awesome. All right, I'll see you later.